Good evening. This is Eswatini TV News at 8, read to you by myself, Nathalie Tole, alongside Zamanzi Manze. First up, let's have a look at our headlining stories. His Majesty King Eswatini III is concerned about the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country, which has dramatically increased the number of infections at an alarming rate. Happy Valley Hotel head sous chef Mhluleli Mtefa has been selected to cook traditional Eswatini food in the 2020 Dubai Expo, which will be held at the United Arab Emirates. The by-elections for Member of Parliament and Induna Nkundla in affected constituencies will be held on the 14th of this month. The news. His Majesty King Eswatini III is concerned about the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country, which has dramatically increased the number of infections at an alarming rate. The King was speaking at Lozita Palace, where he received letters of credence from the High Commissioner of the United Kingdom to Eswatini.
His Excellency High Commissioner Simon Boyden arrived at Lozita Palace to formally present his letters of credence to His Majesty King Eswatini III on behalf of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. High Commissioner Boyden, a seasoned diplomat with a flourishing foreign service career dating back to the late 90s, succeeds John Lindfield, who has retired from the diplomatic service. When he presented his letters to His Majesty the King, the High Commissioner outlined several United Kingdom funded initiatives which benefit Eswatini through the Commonwealth. The High Commissioner pledged the United Kingdom's full support for Eswatini as the kingdom bears the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The setback in economic development caused by COVID-19 is immense, with stark implications globally for humanitarian response, the numbers of people in poverty, and the need for debt relief. But I can assure you, Your Majesty, that the UK remains committed to ensuring that trade supports economic development throughout the value chain and thereby contributes to poverty reduction in Eswatini. Your Majesty, even though we are a small team with limited resources, the new British High Commission in Eswatini is also supporting hundreds of Emeswati at the local level. Through our partner organisations, World Food Programme, Eswatini and All Out Africa, we have contributed funding to assist the most vulnerable households with food parcels and a community garden project to establish sustainable income-generating opportunities.
His Majesty King Eswatini III expressed deep concern about the third wave of the pandemic, which is beginning to overstretch the health sector.
We are realizing the pandemic is even getting worse and worse. The figures, the numbers are increasing. The discouragement, of course, was that we were making tremendous progress here in Eswatini. For 3 weeks ago, we were talking of about 4 people per day. Today, we are talking about of 1,000 people a day. And it's just a short space of time. The number of beds which are now occupied, the hospitals, the clinics, all the health facilities are of course going beyond capacity. So this of course will certainly add more weight to all the challenges we face, that now we have to now focus on supporting especially all those who are suffering.
His Majesty the King also thanked the United Kingdom for contributing towards Eswatini's vaccination rollout campaign.
We are grateful that one of the vaccines which we received here was obviously the contribution from Great Britain, and this vaccine will certainly go a long way, so we're very grateful of that vaccine. The kingdom, of course, needs much more vaccines in different areas, as the population of Eswatini is over 1 million.
Meanwhile, still at Lozita Palace, a special envoy from the President of the Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, paid a courtesy call to His Majesty the King. Didier Mazenga, who is the Minister for Regional Integration, delivered a special message from His Excellency the President to His Majesty the King. On the news, I'm Sandile Makanya reporting with Temba Mamba at Lozita Palace.
Business Eswatini, in collaboration with the Eswatini Business Coalition on HIV and AIDS, has launched a vaccination program for private sector employees around the country. Launching the program, the Minister of Health, Ngozi, says the country can beat the COVID-19 pandemic if all sectors work together to eliminate it.
The Minister of Health, Ngozi, says if all sectors work together, Eswatini can win the battle against COVID-19. The minister said this during the launch of Business Eswatini's vaccination program, which they are doing in collaboration with Eswatini Business Coalition on HIV and AIDS.
We have strategies to try and reach everybody. At this time, my team looks at it as many highways. They are looking at the road we're taking forward as a highway that has many routes going forward. We are looking at going through to Tinkundla with partners such as Luke Commission who played an outstanding role. We are looking at having fixed sites. All our hospitals will have more fixed sites where people can go and vaccinate. We are talking about the industry taking a leadership, people in different places of employment that we could not, even if we tried to take the take over and work with the health facilities within those, we might not be able to reach everybody. And we need to do this together. We need to do it now at the same time.
Business Eswatini's Chief Executive Officer Nathi Dlamini says they will continue to assist government where possible.
He has asked us specifically to reach out to what she calls the masses of this country, the working poor of this country, and that includes even textile workers. We have 22,000 of them in Matsapa. That includes the sugarcane cutters, whom we have 12,000 of them in the country. That includes people who work in forests everywhere. He said, reach out to those as quickly as possible.
In a statement on Wednesday, the Ministry of Health said 49,529 people had received their first dose of the vaccine and 38,469 had been fully vaccinated. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Nelson Ndlangamandla with Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
Happy Valley Hotel head sous chef Mhluleli Mthepha has been selected to cook traditional Eswatini food in the 2020 Dubai Expo, which will be held at the United Arab Emirates. Mthepha was unveiled by Happy Valley Hotel board chairperson Prince Lonkokela in a food tasting event held in the hotel.
Upon realizing that local cuisine, and especially Eswatini's selection of organic and traditional food, can go a long way in attracting not just tourists to Eswatini, but potential investors and business partners, the local Dubai 2020 Expo organizing team took time to select the kingdom's finest chef, who is expected to wow the millions of participants in this expo with some of Eswatini's traditional dishes. The chef who made the cut is Happy Valley Hotel's head sous chef Mhluleli Mthepha, who was unveiled by the hotel's board chairperson Prince Lonkokela in a food tasting event held at the hotel. The Minister of Tourism and Environment, Moses Vilagati, gives an insight of the dishes to be prepared by Mthepha in Dubai.
We will have the opportunity to take these dishes as certainly in for a treat. We have appropriately named the menu, the Pride of Eswatini traditional menu. The chef has prepared 2 menus, each consisting of a starter and a main dish. Menu 1 has a starter of lentil soup, tinhlumaya, which we readily have, with our creative rendition of goat stew imbued. For menu number 2, the starter is jugo bean soup and fresh mealy bread. This sopo the tinhlubu nesingwa sembili.
ukupheka ngikholelwa ukuthi yinto lefuna isuke elithandweni.
Meanwhile, Mthethwa says he reached this point of being Eswatini's highly sought chef through hard work, determination, and love for his work. Last week, Eswatini shipped out a large consignment of locally produced goods, which will be showcased in this expo. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube at Ezulwini.
The Ministry of Education and Training House of Assembly Portfolio Committee has met with the Eswatini National Association of Teachers SNUT to discuss the Eswatini Council of Educators Bill. According to the Portfolio Committee Chairperson Noah Gama and Secretary General Sigelela Dlamini, this bill will impact the education sector positively.
The Ministry of Education and Training House of Assembly Portfolio Committee will be meeting with all stakeholders in the education sector as means to get their views on the Eswatini Council of Educators Bill. The Ministry's Portfolio Committee Chairperson and Member of Parliament, Noah Gama, speaks about the importance of the bill.
We think this is really going to benefit the education and the Ministry of Education and Training, in the sense that teachers will now be registered. Each and every teacher will definitely submit his or her qualifications and then have a number. And also there will be a focus on the behavior of teachers, especially when they interact with the community, with the students, and also it will also help them.
Eswatini National Teachers Association Secretary General Sigelela Dlamini says the bill will enable the association to have a voice in all issues pertaining teachers.
We are hoping that our being part of the council after it has been enacted into law, it will make it a point that all matters that involve teachers, when they are discussed or deliberated upon the red, the SNUT shall always have a voice, because we are going to be part and parcel of that. But lastly, going ahead, we may say that the promulgation of this bill into law, it is going to assist in that it is going to put the SNUT on equal footing with all other relevant stakeholders that are tasked in ensuring that the future of the country is shining brighter and brighter, and that education as a critical sector of the economy is protected and preserved and developed for the future of our children and the yet unborn.
The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee gives assurance that the bill is not in any way meant to frustrate teachers. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Muslim Konta Parliament.
The by-elections for Member of Parliament and Induna Nkundla in affected constituencies will be held on the 14th of this month. This has been announced by the chairperson of the Elections and Boundaries Commission, Prince Mhlaplangeni Dlamini, in a press statement.
The chairperson of the Elections and Boundaries Commission, Prince Mhlaplangeni Dlamini, has announced that the by-elections for the Member of Parliament and Induna Nkundla in affected constituencies will be held on the 14th of this month. The by-elections for the Member of Parliament at Lamgabi Nkundla will be held in 5 chiefdoms, which are Tutwusini at Kuthokozeni Primary, Mhlangeni at Mhlangeni Primary, Lamgabi at Nyanza High School, Luhleko at Luhleko Community School, Mhlulweni at Otwandweni Preschool. Shiselweni 1 will also hold its by-elections in these 7 chiefdoms: at Dumenkungwini at Welcome Primary, Eposini at St. Juliana Primary, Ezikoteni at St. Islam Primary, Wuhuma at Evangelical Church, Mabonabulawe at Masipula Primary, Manyanzeni at Mantambe Primary, Mchinsweni at Mantambe High School. Mathanjeni South constituency will have its by-elections for Induna Nkundla on the same day in these 6 chiefdoms, which are Bambiche at Bambiche Primary, Dinabanye at Pumelela Primary, Kwaluseni at Mgamudze Primary, Nkonga at Mathanjeni Primary, Nsaliche at Oslo High School, Tomintaba at Osabeni Primary, and Tomintaba Primary. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla, Babane.
The Natural Resources and Energy House of Assembly Portfolio Committee recommends that Eswatini Water Services Corporation increases water tariffs by 6.6% for the years 2022 to 2024. This is contained in a report tabled by the Portfolio Committee's chairperson, who is also Ngutseni, Member of Parliament, Big Boy Mamba.
The Minister of Natural Resources and Energy, House of Assembly Portfolio Committee, has tabled a report in Parliament which recommends an increase in water tariff by 6.6%, which is the Water Tariff Increase Regulation 2021 by the Minister of Natural Resources and Energy. The Ministry's Portfolio Committee Chairperson, Ngutseni, Member of Parliament, Big Boy Mamba, in the report says the consensus reached as a result of a very robust and debate engagement. He says the ministry had requested a staggered multi-year tariff increment for the years 2020 to 2024. The chairperson says in spite of the fact that the initial rate of 3.8% is low, but the jump to 9% and 10.2% appeared to be unreasonable and high and may not be appropriate in the current economic climate. In the report, Eswatini Water Services Corporation presented to the Portfolio Committee requesting to adjust the tariff to a level that covers operating expenditure and working capital as envisaged by the Section 31 of the Water Services Corporation. The water company presented that the proposed tariff increment also take into consideration operating expenses for projects which are due to be completed in the tariff period. The report is yet to be debated in the House of Assembly. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Muzi Mkhonta Mbabane.
The elections of the Anglican Church of Eswatini, which were meant to elect a candidate who will take over the reins from deceased Bishop Elina Wamukoya, did not produce the desired results. This is according to Anglican Church Archbishop Thabo Makgoba, who is in the country to oversee the elections.
Bishop Elina Wamukoya of Eswatini Anglican Church died in January this year after contracting COVID-19. Archbishop Thabo Makgoba of Cape Town, Preeminent of the Anglican Church of Southern Africa, says the candidate who will lead Eswatini will now be decided by the Synod of Bishops of the Anglican Church. He says if all goes well, the bishop will be represented by September this year, and the latest will be February next year. The two candidates who are contesting for the position are Reverend Advent Dlamini and Reverend Charles Gunene.
In the Anglican Church, to have a bishop elected, a candidate must have 2/3 majority of isifundisi, the clergy, and 2/3 majority of the laity. After the 8th ballot, the diocese could not reach the required 2/3 majority, and in that case, the choice of the Bishop of Swaziland is referred to the Synod of the Bishops from the areas that I have mentioned. So we thank the candidates that allowed their name to go forward, the Dean Advent Dlamini and the Reverend Charles Gunene.
On the recent unrest in the country, the Archbishop says he is praying for peace like in any other country where there is an unrest. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Muzi Mkhonta Mbabane.
The Emergency Preparedness and Response Department in the Ministry of Health, which is popularly known as 977, is currently experiencing heavy volumes of patients seeking treatment for COVID-19 immediately after diagnosis, as the unit now attends about 250 people daily. This is an update given by the unit's communication officer, Wandile Mthembu.
The daily COVID-19 statistics issued by the Ministry of Health in Eswatini show that there is indeed a rapid spike in the numbers of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the kingdom. As yesterday on Wednesday alone, a record 1,068 cases were confirmed in the kingdom. Eswatini reached the 1,000 mark in confirmed COVID-19 cases for the first time in history. With a sharp rise in the numbers of confirmed COVID-19 cases, the Emergency Response and Preparedness Unit in the Ministry of Health is also faced with serious strains with high volumes of people using this facility daily.
People come in numbers, and yesterday we had around about 250 to 300 people coming here. They got help and they were assisted to, and we're currently experiencing large numbers of people coming here. Right now we've invented another facility there, which is a high care ward. This high care ward helps in taking care of critical cases. People that come, maybe they come bedridden in their cars, they go straight to the high care ward where they are taken care of and eventually evacuated.
Meanwhile, Mthembu urges individuals who experience adverse reactions after taking the COVID-19 vaccine to immediately call the EPR unit toll-free number 977 for assistance or visit the nearest healthcare facility. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube in Babane.
The COVID-19 African Action Network, with different stakeholders, has donated 25,000 face masks to the Ministry of Health. The face masks were received by the Director of Health Services, Dr. Vusi Makakula, at the Central Medical Stores in Matapa.
The director of the Wellness Center for Healthcare Workers and Their Families, Phethile Mamba, says they have been funded by the COVID-19 African Action Network to work with the University of Eswatini to make reusable face masks which will be used by healthcare workers out of the point of care. She states that at the moment they will not be used for medical purposes as they are still being tested if they will be conducive to be used in hospitals.
Mhlambe ngidawuthi nge-first wave sagcina sesiphelelwa nangiwo wona lama mask sesingakhoni kwakona lokuwathenga live lingasakhoni nalokuwathenga kwagcina sekubonakala lokuthi inkinga lenkulu ukuthi kude kwawona lama mask kwase kuyabukeka ke ukuthi ngabe ngiphi indlela lengenda ukuthi mhlambe kube ngcono kube nechibekela embili kwabonakala ke ukuthi kungendeka kwakheke ema-mask lesitawukhona kwawasha nawo singabi ukuthi siyawathenga kodwa siwakhe la iveni kuze ukuthi nasidinga ukukhicida umkhicido lomkhulu sivele sichubeke khona la veni siwukhicide umkhicido lomkhulu loto khona ukuthi wenele bonke mhlambe bonesi mhlambe nethi 70 tempile.
The Director of Health Services, Dr. Vusi Makakula, says the mask will be of great use to the healthcare workers.
As whereby these masks are made of a different kind of material, still serving the purpose of protecting the people out of the point of care, and the studies are still being carried out to see to it that this special kind of resistive material cannot be used even at the point of care. So the most important thing about it is it's reusable, and it will help save the environment, as it has been said, because you can see the whole surfaces everywhere you are going is littered with used perishable, single-use masks.
Mamba says they will continue to work with the African Action Network for Nurses and Midwives to find ways to support government. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Nelson Ndlangamandla with Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Babane.
And now we'll have a look at our financial markets. morning once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Let's have a look at our sports news. The new president of the Darts Association, Phumla Ndwandwe, says the COVID-19 is making it hard for them to prepare for the upcoming Region 5 games that will be hosted in the country in October. The president was speaking in an interview with Eswatini TV sports journalist.
The new Darts Association executive is faced with the task of organizing and preparing for two big tournaments this year. First will be the Malkans Open, which usually attracts teams from outside the country. And the other tournament will be the Region 5 Games, which is attended by teams from the SADC regions. Both tournaments will be hosted in the country. The president of the association, Phumla Ndwandwe, says COVID-19 is making it hard to prepare for these tournaments.
First is the Malkans Open, which is a tournament that attracts players and teams from within the SADC countries, which has been successful over the years. We've seen the numbers grow and the interest grow from players outside of the country. So what is a threat to us now is with regards to the COVID and the restrictions on traveling. So we are just hoping that by the time we get to the tournament, or at least closer to the tournament, those restrictions will not affect our preparations. But secondly, we have the Region 5 Seniors Tournament, which will be hosted in the country also. And same thing, we're also worried about the travel restrictions. But these tournaments are important to us because not only do they bring a lot of players into the country, and we boost our relationships with some tourism partners that we have.
Ndwandwe says, among other things they have planned as an executive is to secure more playing venues, as this has been a big challenge for them as an association. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo MCB with Linda Dlamini. Babane.
Royal Leopards head coach Edwin Mathebula, who has won the MTN Premier League title, says patience from the team's directors has resulted in him helping the team win its first title in 5 years. Mathebula was speaking at the club's training ground in Matapa.
Royal Leopards went a period of at least 5 years without winning the MTN Premier League. The team kept its faith with their coach Edwin Mathebula even at a time when the results were not coming. Mathebula has paid that faith as he has helped the team to win the MTN Premier League unbeaten and with 2 games to spare. Mathebula says patience and support is what led them to the title, and that the team directors should not rush into firing coaches, as each and every one of them comes with their own style of play which they have to introduce to the players.
Most yalama directors alama team alangwana patience. Baqasha coach mhlawumbe ba expect ukuthi abise ama results khona nyalo kanti ema results ay process now. Asengibekise nje mina kufika kwami nale technical team yami mina ngine philosophy yakami kufuna le philosophy ni transform iye kulabadlala ngeke kwendela nga 6 months noma nga season but nje I management le part mhlawumbe umlomtsalo nga national commissioner ne executive yakhe basinikile lelithuba saze sayi blender lento lebesifuna kuyenda nyalo semafruits ayo la.
Captain Musi Dlamini says they're now chasing the unbeaten record.
It's nectareni nastala iligi kwethu kwekuwina igame ngayinye so singicabanga solo sekulo mcondolo ukuthi yonke igame lesiyidlalako siyidlalela kuyiphumelela. Ngicabanga ukuthi nalawa ladako nje ukuthi se iligi sesiyiwinile akusho lutho kithi, but sitawuchubeka njengoba ngibona nyalo ngite ejimini sitolungiselela yona igame yangemgcibelo.
The team now says they want to have an impact in the CAF Champions League, as they will now represent the country. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo MCB with Linda Dlamini, Matapa.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at our top stories. His Majesty King Nswati III is concerned about the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country, which has dramatically increased the number of infections at an alarming rate. Happy Valley Hotel head sous chef Mhluleli Mthepha has been selected to cook traditional Eswatini food in the 2020 Dubai Expo, which will be held at the United Arab Emirates. The by-elections for Member of Parliament and Induna Nkundla in affected constituencies will be held on the 14th of this month. And with that, Eswatini, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from us here at Eswatini TV. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.